Hi, this is Doug Daugherty with Hamilton Flourishing with another exciting interview with one of the 21 people running for our school board races. Now, we're of the opinion that these are the most important races in Hamilton County. Why? They've got the biggest budget. They've got 45,000 students with dreams and ambitions, and who the employers, and then the employers are waiting for employees. Schools want to get these people into them, or they need to get into the Army, whatever they're going to do. Hamilton County does not do well on that thing. Only about 40%, less than 40% are ready to do that. The literacy rate in the county is about a third, has been for a long time. So in some schools, it's less than 5%. Today, we're talking to Jon Baker, Jon, and Jon is running for District 6 School Board, which includes Lufton City, North Chattanooga, North Shore, Riverview, and Stewart Heights, and all of Red Bank. And Jon, I know Jon just a little bit, but his schools include Alpine Crest, Rivermont, DuPont, the Dawn School, Normal Park, and the Center for Creative Arts. So those of you older remember that as the old City High School. Well, actually the Middle City High School. So Jon, we're glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, Doug. This is it's always good to brush up on Zooming. Help me out here.
People our age struggle with this stuff, and our grandchildren all go zip, 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 and there they go. So,
yeah, yes.
So, Jon, tell me a little about yourself. Are you a native Chattanoogan?
No, I'm not. I moved up here from Florida in 2010. I fell in love with Chattanooga when I brought the family up in 2006 to see Rock City, and just had that overwhelming desire to see Rock City. Have no idea where that came from. But the moment I came over the ridge.
There you go.
There you go. The moment I came over the ridge cut, I fell in love with the city. And I told my wife, I said, this is where we're going to retire. She thought I was crazy, but I bought a house within 6 months and just continued to work until I could retire. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Navy. I was a missile technician on submarines for Polaris and Poseidon missiles. So technology is not completely foreign. It's just something I have to practice every once in a while. And I was also a sergeant in the Texas National Guard. I had a platoon. We were a mortar platoon. And I'm here to tell you, it's not easy crawling around in the dirt and laying on the ground at night. So those are the memories I have.
Were you ever deployed?
No, I was not. However, when I graduated from high school, I got into the Merchant Marine, and my very first ship in 1966, I went to Vietnam. I was over there for 6 months as a civilian at the ripe young age of 18.
You and I must be about the same age, because that's when they had the draft, and I was number 276.
Yes.
Didn't have to go. So
most definitely. I'm a father of boy and girl twins, and a grandfather of boy and girl.
Any children in public school or grandchildren?
But they are in Florida.
Oh, okay.
And both of them are dealing with learning disabilities.
The grandchildren.
Yeah, the grandchildren. And actually, both of my children had issues. My son, he went for speech therapy and didn't really learn how to talk until he was 8 years old. So I applaud the specialists that were able to teach him how to talk.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So did you go to college?
yes, I did. I graduated from Eckerd College in St. Petersburg with a degree in public administration.
Okay, so you've got some leadership skills you learned in the Army, Navy, excuse me. Probably a lot of discipline you had to learn to live in a submarine. Uh, so you're a good learner, and you understand that, and then you understand what you learned about. What did you say your degree was in college?
Administration.
So you understand administration, which would seem to me to be a good skill to be on the school board. Now, have you ever run for elected office before, John?
No, I have not. I was appointed by the mayor of Red Bank to be on the planning commission. And then when he chose to not run for re-election, I rotated off and I'm on the board of zoning appeals for Red Bank.
Okay, we live near Red Bank, and we wish that they could pass a zoning thing that would get us a good restaurant in Red Bank. So
That would be nice. And believe me, they're always looking. They are very business welcoming.
well, there's been some good people in the past in the leadership of Red Bank. So and it's a growing community. I mean, if you look at housing values in the community, they're growing. I think that's the next North Chattanooga place. That's where people who want to live near the city are going to find affordable housing. And although it, like all other housing, is going up, I think it's going to be the place to go. The next wave of that, and it's already happening to some part. I mean, if you buy a house over now, they're they're a lot more expensive than they were just a few years ago. Same house. Um,
That I
well,
understand very well because for the last 10 years, I have been buying and remodeling and selling homes. And I did my last flip a year ago, last December.
good for you.
I'm done.
Good for you. You must be handy then too.
I can do electrical, plumbing, you name it, I've done it.
And you're on the zoning people place, so you can get your zoning thing fixed. So.
Exactly, exactly. The last case was quite interesting. I told the gentleman after the meeting, I said, "You didn't do your homework."
Well, listen, let's jump into the heart of this interview. John, why are you qualified to serve on the Hamilton County School Board?
Qualified sounds like I've had training to be on the school board. What I have is common sense and the ability to see solutions and how to get there. That is something that's desperately needed at this stage of the game, because what has happened is that we have been presented for the last 40, 50 years with all sorts of teaching theories that they are trying out and see what works and so forth. And so here we are today, and we are producing uneducated students. What I want to do is bring in some common sense and say, what does that have to do with teaching kids? It just gets so far into the weeds that I like to say that my job is to bring common sense and bring the professional and highly trained people's ideas in line with our ideals.
Well, let me ask you this. That sounds like a bit of a reformer, as opposed to just a cheerleader who wants more money for the system. Have you ever been on a board of directors before of anything? You did say you were on some zones in Red Bank, but do you understand the idea of a board?
Well, when I was with the Medal of Honor Museum, I was the deputy director and the archive manager.
Okay.
And so that put me, I guess you would say, on the board, because I showed up every meeting over on King Street to discuss operational issues and future plans.
So you have some experience involving leadership and boards, because one of the things about the school board and about any legislative body is that you have to have a majority of people, and with 11 things, that'll be what, 6 people that you have to get to vote with you to change any policies or budgets or hire or fire the superintendent. So it's that's where that skill comes into place. The guy or girl woman who drives in thinking she's going to reform everything still has to get 6 people to vote with her, or a majority of those present to vote with her, him or her. So it's an interesting job. So it's very important. I mean, we've got, as I mentioned before, a lot of people depending on the public school systems. Although we have the highest percentage of kids in private and homeschools in the country, or close to it, there's still 45,000 people that are choosing public schools at this point. Well, so Jon, what do you think are the challenges that face not just your District 6, but the whole Hamilton County school system?
The biggest challenge I see right now, Doug, is the mental health of the students now. As a result of the school shutdowns, the mask wearing, the constant fear that's being pumped into them, teen suicide, attempted suicide rates are up 48%. Students have been disconnected from each other. They no longer have the facial visual cues as to how they're doing. The pressure, the peer pressure coming from both their classmates and from the teachers to wear a mask or to behave in a certain way has been overwhelming. And those people who do not go along with the program are then shamed and shunned. So my position is to never, ever shut the schools down again unless it's dangerous weather, and that I would never mandate either mask or shots. That's a personal choice. But the thing is the damage has been done, and we're going to be seeing this for the next dozen years.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. So any other big issues that you see facing the Hamilton County school system?
I would say the other big issue is the class sizes. Because the classes generally run 25 to 35 and more students per teacher, it's impossible for a teacher to take care of all the students' needs just because of the sheer number. My experience as a platoon sergeant, I had a dozen guys, and I had to watch for interpersonal relationships, you know, how they got along, who was the worker, who was the slacker, things like that, so that I could, you know, zero in those people who needed help. My platform is to have a maximum class size of 15 students per class, no matter what. My plan is to begin implementing this on the K through 4 level, because those are the critical years to establish learning patterns. So from my perspective, if we can keep the class sizes low, a teacher can help those who need it. It also addresses issues like bullying, because bullies need anonymity. They can do it in a large class. A teacher hasn't got time to deal with each episode. A small class, a teacher can take that bully and set them to one side and start teaching them how to behave. Mm-hmm. As it is now, they're just passed right along until they get worse and worse and worse. This also applies to sexual crimes, personal safety. A smaller class you can take care of. The other thing that I would be promoting is that no longer will teachers be used as hall monitors or playground monitors. That's not a good use of their time. They have class to get prepared for. they have a lot of details to take care of. We can easily find the people necessary to babysit those situations.
All right. Now, this blends into the question I just asked you, but what will be your priorities for the school that may be different than the ones we just said? You've got how many schools? About 7 or 8 schools, no more than that, more like 11, I guess, schools in your district. But you have to represent not only your district, it's like Congress. You also have to speak for the totality of the county and all those students. So there's kind of a divided loyalty there, no different than being in the House of Representatives at the state level or the national level. But do you have some priorities for your district that are unique from what you just mentioned? What are they?
Yeah. What you're describing is a typical one size fits all. In other words, when we talk district wise, okay? And the districts that I heard from the other night when I was on the panel for the Moms for Liberty meeting, it was far different than the issues that I have here in District 6. However, there are some commonalities, and most of them involve budget. The other thing that blows me away is that district-wise, there's only 6 resource officers for the entire district. Now that's wrong. That's something that we can address district-wide to increase the number of SROs in every school.
Okay, and is that something that would be your priority for your district?
Well, it would be my priority among many of the priorities I have. My first priority is to establish a hotline for parents to contact me with issues so that I can then address them. I've heard too many times where parents are left adrift or told that it's not anything they can address. Whereas if they come to me, I can then go with them and be their shield to lead them through the system.
Good luck on that. Let's move on to the next question. Sure. This is critically important, John, because basically a school board member has 3 responsibilities. Number 1 is to hire and or fire the superintendent. Number 2 is to pass a budget. Number 3 is to move on policy issues. So superintendent, budget, policy issues. You've touched a little bit on policy issues already. But I want to ask you specifically because it's the biggest management tool you've got, because it actually lists what's going on, how much money is being spent on it, how much money is available, and things like that. Have you read the budget for the Hamilton County School? Have you studied it?
That is my bedtime reading. I go through it and highlight it, and sometimes my jaw just hits the floor when I see how much money is being spent for certain items. For example, $8 million for learning loss. I asked somebody the other day, I said, so what is learning loss? And they said, well, that's where, because the schools were shut down and we were Zooming and so forth, we needed the money to get them caught up. And I said, well, then how do you go about getting them caught up? They're in school now. Well, holidays, summer vacations. In other words, they're expecting those kids to go to school 365 days a year. And I said, you can't do that. You just can't. That's not going to be healthy for anybody. So unless you have a time machine, what is that $8 million for?
And you've been running it, as you've been reading the budget, do you So you've been running into a lot of questions like the one you just mentioned.
Lots of questions.
Are you able to get answers from people?
Well, here's the situation. We haven't even gotten through the primary.
Right.
So other than the fact that I've gotten the signatures to run for the school board, I really don't have any more standing with the school board than any other citizen. Whereas once I'm elected, then I can go and get answers and expect answers, not be put off.
Gotcha. Last question, and it really is important because it's related to budget and it's related to scope and it's related to the fact that you're elected by everybody in the county who votes. Will you support a tax increase for Hamilton County Schools?
Definitely not. No, negative. The reason for that is because the current Tennessee law allows, let me start this over. The budget for this year, $434 million, right? Next year cannot be $1 less than that 434 million. That is the Tennessee law. So in other words, every year they establish a new baseline. And every year they keep increasing that baseline. They can't go backwards, they can only go forwards. My position is that money has been coming in both in the form of the state BEP, which is being changed as we speak, which will allow for a higher per student money. There's also the federal ESSER grants that are being issued to the tune of the next 2 years of $128 million. There is a flood of cash coming in. The taxpayers are already paying enough to the federal government, and they're also paying enough to the state. There's no reason to hammer them again on the county level.
Good answer. Good answer. Well, listen, John, that's all I had to ask you, except if somebody wants to contact you and ask you questions or volunteer for your campaign, do you have a Facebook page or a website or a phone number or an email or something?
Okay, I created a Facebook page about 2 months ago, and just a couple of weeks ago, I figured out how to get back to it. So don't look for much over there. I just don't do Facebook. And but you can email me at the 4kids4good@gmail.com. Let's see if I can.
So that's the number 4.
Let's see. Does that show up?
Well, I'm not sure I can read it.
Okay.
It's 4kids, number 4good, GOOD @gmail.com. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
All right. Well, John, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and we wish you well. Thank you for your time, and appreciate it. All right.
All right. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you. Bye-bye.